Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video. Sorry I haven't released anything on the ESO in a pretty long time when it comes to builds besides some Meridia's Guardian, but I wanted to hold off until we had the final patch in on PTS before I did anything because I didn't want any unsuspected changes to show up and make it to where I couldn't release any builds that were going to could be changed. So this is the Death's Wind. This is a Warden tank build, and it's more of a CC tank than anything. It uses a lot of crowd control to keep the mobs at bay and not getting to your allies. So let me go ahead and show you guys the stats on this. I know a lot of people are going to go, well, that's kind of odd. Why do you have higher magicka than you do stamina? The reason I have higher magicka than I do stamina is because of the way the build plays. The build plays off of a lot of magicka use, so I wanted to have the resources there to make sure that the skills would be used and be viable and not be burning through resources like crazy. So it's kind of a trade-off. Now there is some abilities you are not going to keep up all the time. You're only going to use your CC ability when you're fighting trash and stuff. The rest of the time you're not going to be using that CC ability. You're going to be using just heroic slash, deep slash, that kind of thing. That's why we go for the 21k stamina, is that purpose. Now if you look, we have 51 into magicka, 13 into stamina, nothing into health, because we don't really need anything there because we get enough as is from other sources. Now this isn't a typical preferred playstyle or popular playstyle build. This is a non-popular playstyle build. This is just something I kind of put together thanks to a fellow player who gave me the idea. Now I'm not going to relinquish names or anything, but he did give me the idea, and he's like, he's been testing it and playing with it and he really likes it. So as you can see here, though, we have a 1742 spell damage, which he said you don't really need it, but it does help with the dungeon play mostly and ad control. So here we go. We have a 29% critical. He said this is very important because of the monsters that we're running, which is ice hard. He took some of the idea from my Northern Wind and some of his own creative idea and came up with this. So down here we have the 23k spell resistance with the 22 physical resistance. That is unbuffed. Buffed up, we are looking at 28,460 and 28,97. So this is actually pretty good. This is like a 46% mitigation right here, and then we are a Nord, so we get another 6% damage reduction, but that doesn't apply here. It doesn't apply to our resistances. So going down here, we do have major heroism all the time because we are running Shulk's exoskeleton. We do have the Lady Munda Stone for the extra spell and physical resistance, and our primary food is the Tri-Stat food that you can get pretty easily, which is longfin pasty and melon sauce. This stuff's pretty cheap. You can usually get a stack of 100 or 200 even from any guild trader for usually about 5k gold, if not cheaper. So you also want to run Tri-Stat potions of this because you do want that health, magic, and stamina recovery restore from them. And with having the skill potion passive, you can or alchemy passive, alchemical, whatever it is, you can also reduce the use of this. As you can see, it lasts for 41.3, and you can recast this at 45 seconds. So you're going to have 4 seconds almost of downtime, but that's fine. As long as you pop it every 45 seconds, you're good. And there is a little bit of extra play you do need to do with this. If you have a Templar with you, you can synergize off one of their spears, and it'll give you both magic and stamina, and it makes your resource management a little bit easier. But I'll show you how you can manage your resources with this. So moving on to the gear, we are running a 2-piece Ice Heart, 1 light helm with a medium shoulders. This is actually the best combination you can do with this. And any time that you run 2 5-piece heavy sets and you run a helm and shoulders, you do want to run the chest reinforced because it will compensate for that lack of resistance the helm gives you. Now, since we aren't a DK or a Templar, you do need to use the Lady Munda Stone for this particular type of setup. Alright, moving on down the line. So we are running three infused pieces. We are running the helm, the leggings, and the shields infused, with the chest reinforced. Tri-stats on all the big pieces, including the sword, the shields. And then on the smaller pieces, we're running sturdy, with max health enchants. And the reason we're doing the max health enchants is because of one of our abilities plays off of max health, and that's what our main CC. So, moving down to the jewelry, we are running 2 Tri-Rune with shield play enchants. This reduces our block cost and our bashing costs by so much, and then we get the extra percentage block and bashing cost reduction from CP. We'll get into that in a second. We are running a necklace that is infused with a spell damage enchant on it, and he said, like the person who created this build said, you can put a magic recovery here if you want that instead, but he suggests using this for the purpose of trash clearing, because it just makes it a lot easier to clear trash with the extra spell damage. We are running a 5-piece Plague Doctors also. And the reason Plague Doctors, I chose Plague Doctors over his, which is, he runs Abin, is Plague Doctors just gives you a little bit more health. Now, I am also a Nord, and he plays a Breton with it. So he actually gets more spell resist on his than I do, but he said that it doesn't matter. You can use pretty much whatever race. And he tried it with a Nord originally, but then wound up switching to a Breton, recreating the whole character instead of buying a class change token. He rebuilt the whole character from the ground up and did it. But he tested on PTS. This update, he tested his new setup with the Breton with this particular combination. And he says it's working out really well. Moving on down here, we are running 2 infused weapons. Now, the infused weapons do not have Crusher in any way. And he said you can run Crusher, but at the same time, it doesn't help you with the resource management that this build needs. On the main weapon, he suggests a Frost enchant, so that way with infused, you have a 20% chance of chilling the enemies, which can also immobilize them in some of your ability effects. And he said that's how the CC works. And with applying chilled also applies minor maim, and he says the more you can keep chilled applied, the longer minor maim will last, and you can keep it up constantly, he said. So it's kind of nice. And then moving on down with this one, we are using an absorb magic with a magic return. Again, like I said, you can use Crushers here if you want to, but this is what the person who created it suggested. So I just went with what they said, and it does help out to have that magic return on the back bar, because on the back bar you have no abilities that are weapon related. So he said you can throw some light attacks in here while you're on the back bar to get that magic return if your resources are really low. So that's it for the skills, and like I said, or the gear, and like I said, this is not my setup. This is somebody else's. I have tested it. I have ran around with it, and I tested it on a couple world bosses, and it works out really well. The preferred race for this would be Argonian, if you wanted to have that really good, easy resource management. But you won't be able to reach these stat levels with the Argonian. I mean, the Magicka, yeah, but the stamina would be a lot lower. And if you want to swap this round to where you have a higher stamina and less Magicka, you're going to have to change the build because of most of the skills you're using are Magicka based. So, alright, so moving on to the skills. Make sure you unlock all class passives because you're going to really need them for this build, especially the Winter's ones, the Winter's Embrace ones. You're going to want Glacier Presence. This is essential to this build because increasing your chance to applying chill to enemies with Winter's Embrace abilities, which can also immobilize. And then Frozen Armor, you're really going to want that. You're going to want Icy Aura, which reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to you, and then this one as well, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but at the same time it makes sense because of the way the build's set up. Grain Balance, you do want the passives here, like Accelerated Growth. This can apply to you as well. This one, when you heal an ally with a Grain Balance ability, like you're not using any Grain Balance abilities to heal You know, you are, but it's not in the same sense, but you still get that chance of getting those resource returns because you are using Lotus Blossom. And Lotus Blossom is essential. You have to use this ability. None of the other abilities will work with this build. I've tested it and tried it, and it doesn't work. None of the other abilities work as well. Like Leeching Vines doesn't work as well. Nature's Grasp doesn't work as well. This one here works the best with this particular setup. You also get the Emerald Moss, which increases the healing done with green balance abilities by 2%. For each green balance ability you have slotted. You're going to mostly have this only on the back bar, that 2% healing done, which is okay. You're not really a healer, you're a tank, so... And then this one, Maturation. When you heal yourself or an ally, you grant the target minor toughness, increasing their max health by 10% for 10 seconds. This is very important, especially for this particular build itself. You're going to want to keep a heal on you as much as possible to try and keep minor toughness on you, because you do not have Warhorn. And there's a reason why you don't have Warhorn, and that's because if you don't, you have to drop a skill to make room for Inner Light, because you have to have that 8% max magic to make this build really work. And that's why we use Northern Storm on both bars. Northern Storm is also a great ability. And this is more of a dungeon play build. This isn't a Trials build. You could use it for Trials, but you'd have to switch some things around so you can have Warhorn and make everything else possible. You are using one Animal Companion ability, which is kind of nice, but it's only on the back bar. And when one of your Animal Companions is killed or unsummoned, you restore so much health. This does play because it plays upon you, because you are using the blue baddie, which when it unsummons, you will get that much health. You also get Savage Beast, which activating an Animal Companion ability grants 4 ultimate. This effect has an 8-second cooldown. This lasts for 27 seconds, so you will be applying this every 27 seconds, which will give you 4 ultimate. Flourish, increasing stamina and magic recovery for each if an animal ability is slotted. So on your back bar, you are getting that 12%. It's really not much, and you don't notice a difference. Advanced species, you don't really need to worry about. So make sure you unlock all your sword and shield abilities, especially Fortress and Sword and Board. These are very, very important. On your armor abilities, all the passives you need are the top 3 light passives. You want Spell Warding. You need that extra spell resistance. And on medium armor, you don't really need any of them, but they are good to have. The like reduce cost of stamina abilities and increase stamina return kind of thing, but not really essential. And athletics is nice to have for that little bit of extra dodge roll reduction. Heavy armor, you want all the passives. On world skills, you can be a vampire with this. I chose not to be because I don't need that much extra, but you can be a vampire. This is, like I said, mostly dungeons. You're not going to be running a lot of trials with this. So you have Summon Souls and Soul Lock, which are kind of good to have on any build, really, because of how many soul gems you get. I do have all these unlocked because I did test Flawless Dawnbreaker on this and it didn't work. So passive, Persuasive Will, you do want to get that. And then Undaunted, you just want these two. You don't want the ranged taunt. And the reason why is because you don't really have space for it, because you are using this to pull enemies to you. If you want to use the ranged taunt, I would suggest using the stamina version, not the magic version. Moving on to the back bar, we do have the assaults. Nothing in assault and nothing in support because they're not necessary really. We do have all the Nord passives, and it's very important you get these because of the 6% stamina, the 9% max health, and that chill, reduce cold resistance. It's kind of nice. This does apply to your magic resist, by the way. And then the rugged, which is reduces damage taken. On the crafting side, make sure you get medicinal use. This is very important. And if you want to get it, it's not necessary, but you can get Gourmand and Connoisseur, which increases the length of time your food lasts by 20 minutes. It's not really a big deal. You won't notice much of a difference, so because you're going to still be eating food whenever you get close to 20 minutes anyways. Alright, moving on to the actual skills on the bar. On the main bar, we do have Pierce Armor. This is here for the Major Breach, Major Fracture. Next, we have Deep Slash. We are not using Heroic Slash because we are wearing Shulks, so we get Minor Heroism all the time anyways, so there's no reason to have Shulks. But we do want to be able to apply that minor maim to multiple targets. So this allows us to apply minor maim to 3 targets at one time, reducing their damage done by 15% for 12 seconds, which can kind of save your people if you're using it properly. The next ability we have is Gripping Charge. This is our main CC. Now, if you read what this one says, damage done is based on your max health. And this places where you're standing. So you place this, and anything that walks within this circle will be chilled and possibly immobilized. Next, we have Shimmering Shield. This is for ultimate generation. It also absorbs up to 3 projectiles. And as you can see, the spinning shield of ice around you absorbing up to 65,000 damage from 3 projectiles. That's a lot of damage that you can absorb in those shields. So 3 projectiles, total of 65,000 damage per shield. That's really good. Next, we have Meditate or Deep Thoughts. This is the Meditate Morph. This is very powerful, because the Psijic Order is so powerful that with this update. For tanks, you can't pass this up. This is going to give you health every second and magic and stamina at 1914. So if you are having an issue with resources, pop this. You do it for a couple seconds and then go right into block. And as you can see, my Deep Thoughts was healing me for that much. And if you pop this while you have that up, you'll also be able to get your magicka stamina back kind of thing. And then just like I said, go right into block. You want to keep that block up. So, because you want that damage shield. And it is a 5,800 damage shield because of our CP. Alright. The other reason I want to go over to Ice Heart again, real quick, is just so you guys can see when you deal critical damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a damage shield that absorbs 9,976 damage for 6 seconds. While the damage shield holds, you deal 1,016 frost damage to all enemies within 5 meters of you every second. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. Because you're doing frost damage, you do have a chance, it's a very small chance, I think it's like 10%, to apply shield to them, and it can also immobilize them. So this is really, really good with this build. That's why it's so important to have that critical rating at about 40%, or as close to 40% as you can get. Now, with this setup, you can get to 39.6%. The next ability we have on our bar is Northern Storm. Main reason why we have this here is not for the damage it does, or the immobilization, or the reduced movement. It's for the major protection, reducing the damage your ally takes that are standing within the 10-meter radius of this thing by 30%. This is really powerful because of that, because it gives you that major protection to you and your allies. It also grants you max magicka by 8% while slotted, so it's really good to have this on both bars. But if you wanted to, you could put Inner Light on the front bar here where Deep Thoughts is, put Warhorn here, remove Deep Thoughts, move it to the back bar, and put Deep Thoughts in this spot. But you are going to use lose a pull to bring enemies to you, because you can't really give up anything else. Moving on to the back bar, we do have Frozen Device. This is really, really good. It costs some decent amount of magicka, but that's why we go for the higher magicka. So if we want to, we can place 3 of these around us, go into block mode on our front bar, and then any enemies that come into those circles will be pulled directly to us, which means we can taunt them, which is really good. You can also place these circles in a closer radius if you want. Oops. Like this, like you can place them right side by side, or you can even do something like this where they're spread out kind of like that, overlapping each other. It's really a good thing because it's kind of like a trap, but it pulls enemies to you. Really effective. Alright, moving on. Next is Arctic Blast. I know a lot of people like to use the Polar Winds because it applies the heal to somebody else, but with this particular build, you want that heal for yourself. I know it's kind of cheap, but envelop yourself in Winter Winds, healing for 12% of your max health, instantly an additional 10% of your max health over 10 seconds. The winds freeze enemies around you, dealing 2,001 frost damage every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. This is one you're going to keep up all the time. This is going to be your main heal, because when it's going, as you can see, it will proc for 9k or 900 and then sometimes 14, And if you're blocking, it mitigates that extra damage that you could be taking from bosses. And if you have this up, they got to go through 5,800 shields, plus a chance of your Ice Heart shield and everything else. And as you saw there, it also can apply Chill, which also applies Minor Main. And as I said, when you get Ice Heart, you go up to 15,776 shield, and Ice Heart also deals damage. So it's kind of nice. It's like I said, this is a really CC extensive build, and this can immobilize. So you can have your Arctic Winds going, you can have this going, and you can also, like I said, it's immune to gripping shards because it cannot be CC because it's treated like a boss. But as you can see, all that other stuff is proccing. So next on our bar is Lotus Blossom. And this is very essential that you need this. One, any light or heavy attacks you deal will heal you or your allies for 20 seconds. So it's like, it lasts for 20 seconds and it gives you Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical. This is the reason why you need spell. That is so that way when you use Arctic Winds and you use this, you can get your Ice Heart to proc to give you that extra damage shield. Now remember, Ice Heart will proc every 6 seconds if you have this and this going. As long as you have those two things going, Ice Heart will proc, giving you that 15k extra damage shield. This is really, really good to have, and it's also really powerful. The nice thing about using Sword and Shield is you can still use the next ability we have, which is a Blue Betty. If you guys don't know what Blue Betty does, it does give us Major Sorcery, increasing our spell damage. It also gives us 4,000 Magicka back over 27 seconds, and grants us the Major Sorcery, but also it removes a negative effect. So it's also a minor cleanse. So we can keep this up because it costs us nothing to cast it. We can also keep these two up pretty easily, along with our Heroic Slash, this, and this. And if you want, we also have Ice Fortress, which makes us very, very, very durable. So, and you see where it says Gripping Shards Immune? That means that's it trying to apply the immobilization to them. And then, of course, our last ability is Ice Fortress. This is where we get our Major Warden, Major Resolve, but it also grants us minor protection, reduces the damage taken by 8% for 24 seconds. Moving on to the last ability again, Northern Storm, and I've already gone over that, so no sense going over it again. We are going to move to CP now. We're going to start in the red tree, and in the red tree, we have 56 in Ironclad. The main reason why we have 56 in Ironclad is reduced damage taken from direct damage abilities by 20%. This does stack with Hardy and Elemental Defender, which we'll be getting to, but you also get Phase, that whenever you dodge roll, you also get 660, which is 1% mitigation. So you get an extra 1% mitigation when you dodge roll, and this does apply to your resistance there. So if I stand here, if I stand here after I dodge roll, you'll see that it'll go away after so many seconds. So you do get a little bit of extra resistance, which is kind of nice. And if you have this, you can go right into block and get that shield up. So, moving on to the middle tree, we have Hardy, Elemental Defender. These are very important to have on a tank, especially on a Warden tank, or any tank you want to have a higher amount. With this 12%, that 8% damage reduction we get from our cloak applies to this, making it a 20% increase in our physical and spell reduction, basically damage reduction. And it applies to all the things listed here. So poison, physical, disease, and this one, flame, frost, shock, and magic damage. So that's really nice. You also get Unchained, that when you break free, the cost of your next stamina ability used within 5 seconds is reduced by 80%. This is kind of nice. You also get Critical Leech. Whenever you deal critical damage, you heal for so much health. That can happen every 5 seconds. You get Bulwark, which is necessary for most tanks. This increases the physical resistance of your sword and shield by 1500, and then you get Spell Absorption. When you take Flame, Frost, Shock, or Magic or Oblivion damage equal to 30% of your max health, you restore X amount of magicka. You won't ever be getting that, but... Next, onto the red trait, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. I usually put 56 into here, but I've decided not to do it with this build because 40 works really good where it's at. It puts you at 10k on the Ice Heart and 5.8k on the other one, giving you that 15k damage shield, which is really nice. Next, we have 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing our healing received by 5%. That 5% does stack with the 8% from the Heavy Armor passive, so that's a 13% increase in our healing received, which is kind of nice. Moving on to the green tree, we have 23 into Warlord. This reduces Break Free by 10%. You can put more in here if you want. I don't really see a reason because you're not spending that much stamina to break free anyways. It's usually around 2k. We have 21 into Bashing Focus. This reduces our bash cost by 13%. This stacks with our reduced bash cost anyways. If you guys don't know, bashing is used to interrupt an enemy when they're doing something, and it can also set them off balance. Moving on to the middle tree, we have 50 into Arcanus. This increases magic recovery by 11.25%. It's not needed at all. If you wanted to, you could take this 50 points and you could put it into Warlord. If you want to, that will take you up to 73%, or 73 points into there. And like I said, it's not needed because you don't really use this at all. So you could put this over here, like I said, and that'll take you up to 23% break free cost, which is going to be pretty nice. But like I said, it's up to you how you want to do it. I just put it here because I really didn't have any other place to put it. Next, we have 76 in Tenacity. This gives us 14% of our resources back from our heavy attacks, and since we're using stamina, it's going to give us 14% of our stamina weapon resources back. Very, very powerful. Moving on, we have 23 into Tumbling. This reduces the dodge roll cost by 10%. You're not going to be dodge rolling a whole lot because you do have those damage shields that proc all the time, plus you're healing yourself, plus you have other things that mitigate damage. So, not really something you need, but it's good to have it. Next, we have 56 into Shadow Ward. You can go more into this if you want to and take it up to 81 to where you'll have a 4% extra, but you won't notice it. You really won't notice that 4% extra block cost reduction because it doesn't play that well or that much into what you already have. I took the last 1 point I had and put it into a foul, even though I don't use it. It was the only place where I could gain a 1% increase. Moving over here, we have 27 into Blessed. This increases healing done by 7%. I know a lot of people would suggest more, but the way I have this build set up, it's not really needed. Next, we have 23 into Elfborn. This increases critical healing and damage done. I did this mainly for the crit heals. I put 43 into Elemental Expert to increase my frost damage, mainly. This applies also to the enchant on the main weapon, so that is also boosted by 16% because we are Warden and we're using a frost enchant, so that 6% frost damage applies to this as well. And on the back bar we get 10% from this and 6% from our class, which it makes the enchantment on the back bar actually have a little bit greater damage also. Moving on to the mid tree, we have 16 into Physical Weapon Expert. This just is here to, if you want to increase your light and heavy attack damage, you can. Main reason why we have these two here is because we want the Reposit. And I know I only needed 30 points, but you want to have 40 points into here to increase your damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. And again, you don't really need it. It's up to you. Moving on over here, we have 53 into Mighty, 56 into Thaumaturge. Now, why did I put into this? The ice abilities that we're using that are AoE damage are increased by this, so that's why I did it. That gives us a 20% increase in those damage. I put 2 into Precise Strikes, just in case I want to increase my physical critical damage by 1%. And that's pretty much the build, guys. This is Death's Wind. If you want to set it up to your own liking, please feel free to. This setup right here works really good. If you want to change out the Plague Doctors to Ebon, I would suggest using that on maybe a different race. Like, Well, I mean, a Nord still works, but you do lose a lot of health. You lose about 3k health from what this one's at, so you'll be sitting at about 34% or 34k. And then with this one, if you have Warhorn by chance with Plague Doctors, it will put you over 40k, which makes some of your one ability a lot better in use, and your heal a little bit better in use. But that's pretty much it for the Death's Wind build, guys. I hope you guys like it. I'm having a blast messing with it and testing it. I did just get the information yesterday morning on this build from the person, and I didn't really have time to test it in a full dungeon run. But I did get to test it up against some world bosses and at the Abyssal Geysers, and they worked amazing. So... but that's pretty much it for this build, guys. If you guys like this build, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more build videos by me, I have a lot more coming this week. I actually have 2 more coming out tomorrow, 2 Wednesday, and 2 Thursday, and 2 Friday. So even along with my live streams, I will be releasing 2 builds every day this week to bring you guys a multitude of different things. I'm also bringing out Northern Wind as of tomorrow, the revised version of Northern Wind, which is very similar to this, except it's going to be more meta-ish in design, and yeah, or more popular in design than this. So, but I hope you guys like this build. Like I said, other than that, thanks for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.